Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
Hey there, Chris Pirillo here, and I thought I'd upload another video tonight, so I guess that makes two in one day. I referenced, in a kind of an offhanded manner just the other day, that I was going to be moving from Vista to XP on my primary machine, my desktop, and then mentioned it again in tonight's answer to somebody's question. And a couple people were commenting and asking, what's going on? What's the deal here? Are you on Vista? Are you on XP? What's happening? And so I thought it'd be best to actually break it out into a separate video in and of itself to kind of explain what's going on and why I'm not really ready for Vista on my desktop machine. Now, to Microsoft's credit, I wouldn't say it's their fault. I wouldn't say it's the third-party vendors' fault, the people who make hardware and software and drivers and whatnot. It's just kind of like all those things combined. I'm running into a lot of issues with software that hasn't been updated, with hardware that doesn't have driver support. I've got, as I detailed in my personal blog at chris.pirillo.com, this is where this mess kind of started. It took the blogosphere by storm. It really made a lot of people upset, made a lot of people wonder, well, why was I moving back from Vista to XP and calling it an upgrade? Well, it's because Vista doesn't work the way I would want it to work. I mean, there are parts of Vista that I really, really like. I mean, hey, I'm wearing a Windows Vista cap. I mean, the operating system in and of itself, at its core, is better than XP in some respects. In theory, it's better than XP. In practicality and in application, for instance, as I was beginning to refer to, I've got an HP LaserJet 3052, and the printer works fine, but the scanner does not. And unfortunately, I've got a stack of some stuff that I've got to scan and get in to somebody else before too long, and the only way I can scan it is by rebooting into XP. And then once I scan it, I have to fax it. Well, of course, my fax driver, since I fax over the internet using a service I've been using for, close to about 7 years now, the driver won't work in Vista at all. It's just an outdated driver, and I don't know if it's ever going to be updated. Well, if that's the case, I can't live in Vista if the software that I use in my life for productivity does not work. Now, some people say, well, why don't you just hang on? Why don't you wait until everything gets fixed? Well, I can't wait. That's like saying, put your life on hold, just wait a second, we'll eventually figure it out. Well, while people are figuring it out and getting those bugs fixed, I still need to get work done. And I'm finding Vista to be, I don't know, frustrating in some cases. And on the same machine, XP works just fine. So I'm thinking, well, why am I spending more time in Windows Vista just to get, prettier window dressing and some, nicer, newer features like, the Ready Boost, and other assorted little things like better Windows Update and cleaner icons, but these things mean nothing if I can't get my work done. So I got a question, a few questions actually from press. BBC had featured the link that I wrote. My friend Christopher Knoll over at Yahoo also featured the link that I wrote. Have over 100 comments there on my personal blog post about, I think the subject or the headline I chose was Windows Vista, I'm breaking up with you. Well, that's partially true. And hey, I'm good at writing headlines for the most part. It was an attention grabber, and it did grab attention. I'm still running Windows Vista on one of my laptops, although I've discovered that this laptop is not happy right now, and I think it's hardware related. It's definitely not related to Vista, because I just reinstalled Vista on this laptop for a third time, and it's not doing well. But my ThinkPad, which is downstairs right now, runs Vista just fine. I've been running all the betas of Vista on that particular machine, and it's never really given me a problem at all, and that machine's probably about one of the older ones I have in this house. So the reason why it probably runs Vista better is because I'm not plugging in my printer or relying on my fax driver or trying to do all my work as I normally do while I'm sitting in front of my machine with, well, you've seen the videos, a couple of big screen monitors, and I'm hoping to get even bigger monitors here at some point in the future because, hey, the bigger the monitor, the better your productivity. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a geek. I mean, they've really proven that, fundamentally. The more screen space you have, the more productive you can be. Anyway, so I'm getting questions from the press, and I got one email that I'm just going to go through right now, because instead of writing it out, I thought I would point the person who asked these questions to this particular video for a couple of reasons. One, when press traditionally ask me questions, I'll answer them at length. And they'll use like one or two snippets in their final article, and all that great content is wasted. And so I thought, well, I'll just answer these questions to the benefit of the general community, whether on YouTube or the community that follows me in my my wacky misadventures in technology on my personal blog, chris.pirillo.com, or just Google for my first name, C-H-R-I-S, Chris, and I'm the #1 Chris on Google, at least at this point in time. Hope that doesn't change anytime in the near future, because that's the easiest way to find me. So this is a line of questions that's coming in from a freelance journalist in Sydney, Australia, writing for the Sydney Morning Herald, I guess in their icon section. And since I've never really been down under at all, I will one day, but I'd assume it's a great paper. I could only assume. Well, it's a great journalist if he's asking, he or she is asking me questions about my experiences with Windows Vista. Number 1, is Chris Pirillo your real name? Hang on. This is Chris. Hello?
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 Hi, Ponzi?
Hang on just a second. Babe! Babe! It's the phone! Sorry.
Hello?
Alright, she'll get it. Anyway, where was I? Is Chris Pirillo your real name? Yes, and I have a real life that gets interrupted by phone calls all the time. Anyway, yes, my real name. Where are you from? Well, originally I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. Then I moved to San Francisco to take a job at Tech TV and host a show where I would help people with their technology conundrum. Is that the plural of conundrum? Conundrumus? Anyway, I help people using television, and then from there I moved to LA, and then from LA I moved to Seattle, and that's where I'm at now. I'm based in Seattle. So you can say where I'm from, Seattle. Which version of Vista did you buy? Aha! I did not ever purchase Vista. Now, the reason for this is that I've been beta testing Vista for months and months and months, providing direct feedback to Microsoft, posting my feedback to the web, giving, as much help as I possibly could to the community, and as a token of their appreciation, they gave me a registered copy of Windows Vista, and for that, I am very, very grateful. Would I have necessarily, this isn't a question, but would I have ever walked out and purchased Vista on my own? I probably would have. Had I not been given a copy, I would have purchased Vista, if only because, hey, I'm a technology agnostic. I mean, I don't care who produces it. I like seeing the new, latest, greatest, etc., etc., etc. It's easier to look at the latest and greatest. Well, greatest is arguable in this situation, but whether it's easier to deal with newer stuff in the world of software than it is with hardware, because hardware, of course, you're dealing with physical products that cost substantial amounts of money and take up space. Software, it's usually easy to upgrade, usually, and you usually don't have to turn your life around when you upgrade software, unless, of course, that software is an operating system. That operating system happens to be something like Windows Vista has been for me. Now, some people, going off on a tangent here, but some people have said, well, if you remember back to Windows XP, we were in a similar boat. There were no new drivers, things didn't work perfectly, so on and so forth. Yeah, but I think Windows XP had a different life cycle. I think the way Vista was developed, Microsoft had walked down a certain path and was developing the code that was to become Windows Vista, which didn't, and they abandoned that because they were developing that code on beta software. So they were developing beta software on beta software. Oh, I don't know who came up with that idea, but that is going to be written down as one of the biggest mistakes ever made throughout the entire industry. And of course, now we've come to live with it. What we know in Vista, what we see in Vista, is largely been done in 2 years of development time, whereas it usually takes longer than that to develop an operating system, or at least in terms of Microsoft's time frame, from my understanding. I'm not a developer, I'm only a power user. And let me tell you, now more than ever, we're in control. The users are in control, and that's just the case. That's just it. That's the case. And it's evidence because there's a lot of selection on the marketplace today for people in terms of using computers and technology. For instance, I'm wanting to go back to Windows XP. I would stick with Vista, but there's just too many things that just don't work right, and I don't have time to mess with this stuff. I need my software to work now, and it's so ingrained, more so than it was with XP. XP was out, gosh, how many years ago? The internet wasn't as big as it is today. I wasn't necessarily spending as much time communicating in many various fashions and using so much software to communicate and develop and produce as I was. I'm using it more today than I was back then. It's a different world. OS X wasn't an alternative really back when XP was released, and now it is. It's a fantastic alternative to Windows. I'm saying it. I'm wearing a Windows Vista cap. I'm telling you, OS X is a fantastic alternative to the world of Windows. If only because of Apple's decision to partner with Intel at this point in time, and I'm hoping they're going to open up that to other chip manufacturers at some point in the future, just because, again, competition is very healthy for the marketplace. But OS X is getting to be more and more compelling for solutions. I'm not going to say that OS X doesn't have its fair share of, issues with security or viruses or spyware or whatnot, but certainly a lot of those issues are mitigated by the fact that it's not the tallest nail. Windows is the tallest nail, and it's going to get pounded. I pointed it out in videos here before. I run OS X. I've got a Mac Mini sitting across the room. I've got my iPod attached to it, wireless keyboard. I keep the wireless mouse right here. Love this thing. I always wondered how Apple was ever going to leap past the one-button thing, and they've done a very good job with, I think this is the Bluetooth Mighty Mouse, and it's usable, and it's got a little scroll ball. In fact, I actually prefer this ball, this little scroll ball, this nub, to the scroll wheel that I have on my primary desktop. This is what I use, the Microsoft Wireless Laser Mouse 8000. And it's comfortable, it's usable, I like it. But anyway, so there's a lot more choices out there today for consumers. And some people ask me, well, what should I go with? Should I go with Vista or should I go with OS X? Which one should it be? And, the answer really boils down to, well, what trips your trigger? What do you want to use? What kind of software are you looking to use? And for the most part, people are saying, well, email or the web browsing, maybe do some photos, videos, etc. And for the most part, both Windows and OS X do a fair job across the board. Now, that being said, I believe that OS X is going to pull ahead of Windows Vista in terms of features, functionality, usability, friendliness, cleanliness, price, etc., all across the board when they release Leopard later this year. And that's Apple. And unfortunately, we're not going to see Service Pack 1 for Vista until later this year, most likely after Leopard is released. Nice thing about Apple's machinery these days, and since it's running on an Intel platform, is that you can run Windows on the same machine. In fact, with software from Parallels, that's actually a company located in the Seattle area, you can actually run Windows from within OS X. They just released the final version of their new software just the other day, and it's a feature called, oh boy, I'm blanking on it. Forget it. Okay, anyway, it's a feature that will allow you to, I can't remember, to run Windows natively within OS X. So you're actually running Windows within Apple's operating system as if you were running Windows natively. It's amazing. It's absolutely fantastic, and Apple gets a big upper hand for that, because if there's a compelling reason to switch, it's the fact that you can run your Windows apps just as if you were running on Windows, but you have the security and stability of OS X. I'm not going to say it's perfectly stable. Believe you me, every operating system sucks. If you don't believe me, do a search for Every OS Sucks, and you'll hear the songs by 3 Dead Trolls and a Baggie. That's the name of the band. Okay, so I was on question number 3. Which version of Vista did you buy? The version I did not buy that was gifted to me by Microsoft, as they had done for a lot of their featured communities and for their supporters and the people that help them with feedback, etc. Ultimate, of course. Now, that being said, so far the only thing about Vista Ultimate Edition that I've seen has been Texas Hold'em Poker and something called BitLocker that I really haven't had a chance to use because I don't think my hardware supports it. And then, so I don't even know what it is because I haven't used it. And then Dreamscape, which allows you to run a video as a background in Windows, and that is wholly interesting for about 5 minutes, and then it gets annoying in the fact that it spikes CPU because it's beta software. Maybe it's going to do that in final, who knows? But I can tell you this, I turned on a tweak in OS X and did it the other day, and it seemed to be fine. I'm not saying that, you know, one person copied another person, but so far Vista Ultimate, maybe it's going to take another year, maybe it's going to take Service Pack 1 for it to become truly ultimate, but the price point, I would have done it differently. I'm not Microsoft, I'm not a multi-billion-dollar company, far be it from me, I'm just a user. So I make decisions, I'm an agnostic user, I support every company that does good stuff for us, the community, the users. I wish Microsoft would have made a decision and just had one version of Vista. I know they've got they want to do different SKUs and whatnot, but as far as a home user is concerned, they just want to walk in a store, pick up a box, and leave. They should have learned their lesson with the confusion between XP Home and XP Pro. They didn't. Instead, they made about 13 billion different versions of Windows Vista, or so it seems to the average user. Do you know which version of Vista you want? Do you know which version of Vista you would get the most use out of? Chances are, no. Not even geeks understand that stuff. I went with Ultimate because it's like, well, I know they're going to add different features that are supposedly going to be there for power users. That being said, have you seen a single power toy get released from Microsoft since they released Vista? Interesting. I don't know. If I was Microsoft, I wouldn't necessarily give the operating system away, but I'd release it for $99, make it competitive, and you know, let people have at it. Yeah, maybe what they should have done, you know, they obviously you can purchase and download it on the web. Maybe they should have just released Windows in a very basic sense, free, and then have people pay for additional features as they use them. I don't know. It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, that's the future of operating systems from a commercial standpoint. And some would argue, well, you know, well, that's where Linux is going to come in and save the day, and that's you know, well, fine, so be it. But I've really yet to see that happen in the marketplace. And I think if anything's got a chance to kind of assert a different brand on the desktop beyond Microsoft Windows, it's going to be OS X, and that would be the horse that I would back at this point. Not to say it's perfect, and hey, like I said, I'm not moving at this point. I'm not moving to OS X from Windows Vista. I'm likely going to be sticking in XP for a while. Some people have suggested that I do a challenge and try to live with OS X for, well, some guy said 60 days. I don't know if I could go that far. I'd say 30 days, but to do that, it's an expensive proposition. I mean, I've got all this PC hardware that can't run OS X. I mean, my mouse would be able to work with it. My monitors would be able to work with it. A lot of my USB peripherals would be able to work with it. But the actual machine, it would cost a few $1,000s for me to do. It's like, then I'd have to import this, export that. Of course, you know, the import and export of data isn't as important if I have parallels running all the time, then I could run Windows apps as if they were sitting right there inside OS X natively. Okay, when did you buy it? Next question, question number 4. I didn't buy it. I actually, as I said, it was given to me as a token of Microsoft's appreciation for helping them, and I really did. I mean, I looked at all the details and said, look, can you fix this? This is a problem. I'm crashing here. This is happening. This is what's going on here. And that feedback, I can see that some of that feedback actually made it into the product. I can see it. And I wish more of it would have made it into the product, but hey, you know, they only have so much time. They only have so much people. I don't know. It's just my perspective. How much did you spend on it? Well, if I would have bought Vista Ultimate as an upgrade, it probably would have been a couple $100s. And I probably would have bought that at that level, at that price. Would I have rushed out and gotten it the night before? Or at the midnight release? Probably not. Understand, this is coming from the same guy who just couldn't wait to run Windows 95. Couldn't wait to try to upgrade to Windows 98, and then Millennium Edition I was only on for a couple days, and then I went from 98 to Millennium Edition, tried that for 2 days, and said went back to 98 for a couple more days. Someone made a suggestion that I actually try Windows 2000, went to that, was very, very happy. And then, of course, XP was released after that, and I went from 2000 to XP because it just seemed like the smartest thing to do, or smarter thing to do, and it was fine. Moving from 2000 to XP was not half as painful as moving from XP to Vista has been. Maybe it's just because I rely on different types of hardware that just aren't supported yet. Who knows? Did the installation go smoothly? On my ThinkPad, yes it did. On my other laptop, which of course you saw pictured in another video the other day, it seemed to go smoothly, and the drivers that they released, the OEM released, made it work even better than it did without some of those drivers, because some of the hardware on the laptop wasn't recognized at that point in the beginning. But now, as I said, I think there's something wrong with the hardware because it feels like it's being throttled, and I can't figure out how or why. And I've looked at everything. I've reinstalled the operating system, reinstalled just about everything, and it's still problematic. So I've got to look deeper into that. The installation on this desktop seemed to go fine. I just installed it on a separate partition beyond Windows XP, so I can still dual boot. In fact, I can try boot. I can boot between XP, Vista 32, and Vista 64, and I'm by the way, the problems that I'm having are in Vista 32. I didn't even want to introduce 64-bit to the mix because that's just a headache that I didn't want to have to deal with at this point in time. So yeah, it seemed to go fine. I mean, the installation was relatively painless. What was the first problem you noticed after installation? It's a good question. I probably noticed a handful of errors and problems in my default browser. It's Maxthon is the name of it, Maxthon. I've been using that browser since I lived in San Francisco. Been using it for quite a few years. I've been through thick and thin with that browser, and I love it. I can't imagine switching to anything, including Firefox. I love Maxthon, and it had a few quirks to it. Now I'm also using an older version of Maxthon, 1.x, and they're continually developing the Maxthon product, and they're starting to release betas for Maxthon 2.0. I'm not very happy with Maxthon 2.0 because it doesn't have the features and functionality that 1.0 currently has. Now, as it continues to mature and develop, then maybe I'll upgrade to Maxthon 2.0, but the browser is just too important for me to go messing with, and so I ended up having a handful of problems. But I did work with the developer on those things, and some of the issues still aren't fixed, but for the most part it works better than it did when I first started using Maxthon inside of Windows Vista. But again, the developer was responsive. Then I noticed that the scanner wasn't working. I noticed my fax driver wouldn't install. It just kind of went downhill from there. I mean, I tried, different software. The thing that really annoys me about, really annoys me about Vista is the, user access control, also known as UAC. I think they did a very bad job at interrupting the user experience with that thing, and I'm not the only person to say this. There was actually a PC World article that chastised Microsoft for making it so brackish in terms of the way and how it interrupts. It lacks polish. It just lacks polish. And I think that the Vista Basic theme, the theme that you see in like very basic low level, the very basic, I don't know, I wish I could show you a screenshot easily. The theme of Vista, when it doesn't have glass, like the very lowest quality, I think is just shoddy. And unfortunately, I've seen that way too much if I run an app, let's say, like a real player that wasn't compatible, I think, until I started rendering it in DirectX rather than in another. It's incredibly geeky, but my point is, bottom line, just started feeling like my whole life was being interrupted because Windows couldn't make up its mind what it wanted to do. Now, some people say it's by design. Okay, it still annoys me. So, I see on your website that you've detailed all the problems. Well, not all the problems, but which one bothers you or affects you the most and why? Probably the scanner, I'd say, at this point, and the fax driver. Those are two separate things, two separate manufacturers, but those are like crucial, pivotal. I also feel that XP is faster on this machine, and its drivers are tried and true. I've got an NVIDIA video card and chipset. Enough said. NVIDIA has completely dropped the ball. In fact, there's a class action lawsuit against NVIDIA at this point because of the way they've dropped the ball with Windows Vista. ATI has done a substantially better job at supporting this new operating system, and they both had equal time. So if there's a reason to keep using XP instead of Vista, NVIDIA. Say no more. It's just been problematic. The drivers have been anything but stable and useful. And I really feel that XP is just much faster on the same machine than Windows Vista is. And forget all the eye candy for a second. It's all about speed at this point, especially on the desktop for me. In your opinion, how ready was Vista for release? Do you think Microsoft released Vista in an unready state? Oh boy, this is a loaded question. Was Vista ready for release? Yes, with an extreme caveat. Do you think Microsoft released Vista in an unready state? No, I think it is in a ready state. Is it as fully baked as it could be? Definitely not. Is it in a ready state? Yes, it works. I mean, at its core, it works. There are things that aren't perfect about it, but then again, what operating system is perfect? And please, there is no perfect operating system. Every OS sucks. I don't know. It still feels very beta-ish to me, very late beta. It doesn't feel final, and I think Microsoft has undermined its own credibility by stating that they're going to release Service Pack 1 for Windows Vista within the year. I mean, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. That's Microsoft. So Microsoft is basically admitting the fact that what they got out the door may not have been as fully baked as it could have been. I don't know, maybe Microsoft's turning over a new leaf and is going to be releasing a new service pack every year, which would be great. I'd love to see more updates more often. I'm the kind of person who doesn't mind updates. I like updates because stuff is broken and I don't have to wait for the next service pack to get it fixed and to figure it out. Anyway, do you think Microsoft released Vista in an unready state? No, but I also think that third-party developers are to blame for a lot of the mess. HP should have been ahead of the game. They had plenty of time. I wish that I didn't have to change my lifestyle to work with Vista, and I think that's the pivotal point for me. Is like when I have to start thinking about how to work online and live my life and work with software. That's when it's time to make a change or a change back to not necessarily what was comfortable, but what definitely worked for my particular modus operandi. Do you believe others have also experienced problems with Vista? Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, the same day that I posted my reasons for, well, my primary reasons for switching or wanting to switch back to XP, and I completely forgot about a handful of other issues that I had, including with the Windows Media Player. Yeah, other people have emailed me, bloggers and individuals. One person said, she can't get her QuickBooks to run. What the heck is going on with that? And she bought a laptop new with Vista thinking it was going to be perfect. Well, it's obviously not, at least for her. That's just one example. Other examples have been people who rely on sound apps, and the way Windows Vista sound works is differently than it works in Windows XP. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details at this point in time, but I can tell you that things are different. If you expect your sound card to work 100% the same way it did in XP inside of Windows Vista, might not happen. So other people, yes, have experienced problems with Vista, and other people haven't had any problems whatsoever. So it's a 50-50 thing, man. Just like I'm going to hopefully still run it on my laptop, but I'm also going to be going back to XP on my desktop for the time being. And then maybe I'll do it, pardon me, maybe if I can figure out how to do it, do a 30-day challenge on OS 10. That might be interesting. I mean, I've been a Windows fanatic for so long. I built my website, LockerGnome.com, on running Windows and using Windows software and really exploring this world of the internet using Windows. But, times change. So do operating systems. Still love Microsoft. I can't. That's the thing. Some people say, well, Chris, you're attacking Microsoft incorrectly. I'm like, well, I'm not attacking Microsoft. I'm just saying this is where I am today. Don't blame me for the fact that this stuff doesn't work. Is it a PEBCAC? Is it a problem exists between keyboard and chair? Hey, I'm fully willing to say that it is. I have no problem in saying that I may have screwed something up. But it's one thing on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. It's not one thing. Look, look, look. I love the Xbox 360. I swear by Microsoft peripherals. Their hardware, I swear to God, is great. Well, even though I had a problem trying to get the live cam to work in Windows Vista, worked fine in Windows Vista on another... No, I didn't try it on Windows Vista down there. I tried it on XP. Works fine in XP, but it didn't work fine for me in Windows Vista, even with their final drivers. I can't wait to get my Microsoft wireless keyboard. They're releasing soon. I pre-ordered it on Amazon, but I haven't seen it. Hasn't showed up yet. So I have no problem with Microsoft as a company. They've been very supportive of me, and I have been supportive of them. But in terms of using Vista, I can't do it right now. I can't do it on my desktop. I want to, and I want to say it's the most awesomest thing since sliced bread. And I want to say, oh, I'm so excited about this feature and that feature and this feature. Damn! That's what's so frustrating. It's really frustrating. I'm watching friends like drop like flies in terms of 3 people that I never would have believed would ever switch from Windows emailed me within the past day saying, yeah, I'm switched. I'm literally my jaw dropped when I'm reading these emails going, oh my God, when the world finds out, they're just gonna freak. Windows is, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'm worried and I want to help, but in the way I have to help, I gotta get my work done. I mean, I'm not getting paid to help Microsoft at this point develop their operating system. I'm willing to help and offer feedback for it, specifically in the issues and the bugs that I'm running into. And like I said, you know, they've been very grateful for that feedback. I'm sure some developers wanted to throttle me, but I provided a lot of feedback, very useful feedback, in terms of the way something works and the way something might work. But it's gotten to the point where I can't. The software's just not ready for a lot of people. It's a 50-50. It's a toss-up. And I'm not the only person saying this, and I realize I'm repeating myself, but I know I'm going to get attacked by both sides. Some people saying, well, Chris, you should just get rid of Microsoft altogether. Well, Chris, you should stick it out with Windows Vista. Well, why move back to XP? This is just fine. This is fine for me. Well, I don't understand why you're having problems. I'm having no problems whatsoever. I'll switch to Linux. Oh, God, there's another problem altogether. Everybody's computing experience is going to be different. And for me, right now, despite all the advances of Windows Vista, XP just works. More questions here. Should Microsoft have released Vista in its current form? Loaded question. It feels like late beta to me, and they're going to be releasing Service Pack 1, and they've announced this by year's end. That says enough. And you draw your own conclusions. I've drawn my own. I've said my beliefs, but everybody's going to see that and believe it differently. Did you complain to Microsoft? If so, how? Email or phone? I'm lucky enough to know a handful of people at Microsoft, and yes, I did email several times saying, look, this is like, it just feels this way, and can you change this, and why is this happening this way? Why is this going on? What's this? So I was very, very involved. I was involved as much as I possibly could have been. I used to be a Microsoft MVP. I'm no longer an MVP. It seems like all the feedback that I gave them just kind of fell on deaf ears. I used to be an MVP for digital media, so I would specifically look at things like Windows Media Player. And I swear to God, in beta testing Windows Media Player 11, all the feedback that I offered was just fell on deaf ears. Seriously. And most of it had to deal with the user experience and the way the program was being used and certain details about the user interface. And it was either written off as will be fixed in a later release or yeah, good idea, but we can't do it. So, and it wasn't like I was asking for the world. I was just asking for, in my opinion, small things. For instance, you want to know a bug that's been existing in Windows Media Player 9 and I've been reporting ever since then? In classic mode, which I, by the way, in Windows XP run in, because the Luna interface, the blue or olive or silver interface is just junk. I don't mind Arrow. Arrow grew on me eventually, but XP anyway. In classic mode, when you minimize the Windows Media Player and it minimizes to a player, sorry, I got an itch. Nothing there. And besides, I can't wipe it on you, so don't. In the media player, when you minimize it, the player buttons bloat the taskbar by a couple pixels. So in classic mode, you minimize the player to the taskbar, and the player controls are there. If you enable that part of the media player, it bloats the taskbar by a couple pixels. It pads it up, and it just looks janky. It looks nasty. So it's a bug. It's a visual bug. And I filed it in 9, I filed it in 10, and I filed it in 11. And I pointed out to the team. I went. In fact, I had a meeting at Microsoft with people. I was like, dude, you have to fix this bug. It's annoying. I'm just one guy. I'm just one user, and it didn't make it. And consequently, I don't know. I'm not. Am I disappointed that I'm no longer an MVP? No, I'm a member of the featured communities for Windows, and of course, they're disappointed that I'm having to move back to Windows XP on my desktop. And I'm sure I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I can't sit there. My credibility suffers if I sit there and say, yeah, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I don't believe that. I believe that it could be better. To the point where, I'm bearing my soul. I've written everything. I give people as much help as I possibly can with this stuff. I'm getting emails, trying to field them. I forward on emails when I can to people to try to get things done and to facilitate fixes. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Vista, if Apple plays their cards right, they could really do some damage. I'm not worried about it, though, and I don't. If I was Microsoft, I wouldn't worry about it either, because Apple has a history of letting ego supersede what they should do. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but Apple could make a few smart decisions now that could change the marketplace overnight. I'm not going to say, because, hey, that's Apple's decision, and they're going to ignore me, too, because, like I said, I'm just one user. Did you complain to Microsoft? If so, how? Email, phone, email, and online, in my blog. Has Microsoft acknowledged any of your problems? Oh, yeah. No, they acknowledge. I mean, that's the one thing you got to give Microsoft credit for. I mean, despite the fact that, I'm not thrilled about Vista, despite the fact that I've been a Windows user for 10 years, all these things compounding one on top of each other, Microsoft has been the most transparent and the most approachable company. Which is so odd to me. It's stark contrast, because most people look at Apple as like this warm and inviting, oh, they're very friendly, but if you look at their nature online, they're very prickly. I mean, they've actually gone after bloggers about what bloggers have said about Apple and secrets and all this stuff. Apple is not as friendly a company as they emote themselves as being. It's great marketing. They've got great marketing in that sense, but Microsoft doesn't have great marketing in that sense. I think Microsoft has been more warm and open and inviting and transparent and approachable. They let their employees blog about whatever they want to blog about, and they let them out there. And that's just, I think, has been fantastic for their image. They've been very approachable, very open, very, in my opinion, very friendly. They have been, and I realize it sounds odd. Well, how can Microsoft be friendly? They have been. They've been extremely friendly, extremely open. When I present, my situations, some of my friends inside of Microsoft, and I have friends who work at Microsoft, who doesn't, some people ask me, well, how did this happen? Did you try this? Did you do this? So they're, trying to help me through it. And, eventually I present them like, look, I've gone about as far as I can go with this. It's not one thing. If it was one thing, I would have no argument. I would be some ranting idiot. If I was the only person who was having issues with Vista, I would be happy, because it was just me, and I was just blah. But it's not, and I just want to get it out there, and I'm trying to help the situation, not hurt it. And I want to ask, Microsoft to take stock of the situation. I mean, really, take this into perspective. People who are buying Vista machines are having issues. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep pushing Vista out there? Are you going to keep saying, well, buy Vista now, we'll fix it in 6 months? I mean, what if I bought a car, and they said, well, it's got some steering column problems, but don't worry, we're going to fix it in about 6 months. What? There are certain things I'm willing to deal with and live with, but when it starts interrupting my productivity, my daily life, I can't deal with it. right now, I'm doing fine. You can hear my email going off in the background. I'm recording video, but I'll be damned. I can't scan this document. I can't get something to work the right way because software hasn't been updated. It's not Microsoft's fault. It's in some cases, it's not the third-party developer's fault because maybe they don't have the resources for it. Maybe they've gone out of business. Not HP. I mean, they're a different story. They are to blame for the fact that that doesn't work in Vista yet. It's a combination of all these things that's just leading me to my decision. That's it. That's it. I don't hate anybody. I just can't deal with Vista on my desktop right now. That's it. Bottom line. And you know, honestly, at first, what annoyed me about Vista was the user interface. I mean, there were certain things that they just did not fix that just felt very Frankenstein-y, very schizophrenic. And honestly, I haven't been as bothered by it as I thought I would. Largely because I figured out how to hack the registry or change the registry so that all the system fonts are calling on their new font, Seago UI. So I redirect Tahoma calls, I redirect Arial, MS Sans Serif, Microsoft Sans Serif, and Times New Roman. I redirect them all to Seago UI, and for the most part, Vista looks a hell of a lot better that way than it did when it actually shipped. But hey, I'm a power user, so that's just the way I roll. Oh my god, I'm a white boy, and I said that. Oh my god. Oh yeah, I've jumped the shark. Let's see here. What have you done about the problems? Have you actually gone ahead and moved back to XP? No, but I have been booting back and forth between Vista tonight and XP on this machine. Getting things ready, making sure things are fine, and for the most part, I expect that jump to be relatively painless. I just have to find the time, because it'll take me about a day to make sure everything is set up right, getting Office reinstalled, my apps that I use Miranda to unify instant messengers across the board. I can actually access Skype through Miranda. It's an open source product. You can do a search for it on Google, or Windows Live for that matter. In fact, let me just prove to you. Let's go to search.live.com. There we go, live search. Let's do a search for Miranda. Yep, number one, right there, Miranda IM. So there, it's the exact same results, well, at least number one, the exact same result as you would find on Google. Miranda. I love it. I swear by it. It's the only thing I use for IRC, Jabber, ICQ, AIM, Skype. Well, you also have to have Skype running in the background for Miranda. It's kind of a dirty hook because Skype really hasn't fully released an API for developers yet. Yahoo, it handles them all, and it's in my opinion. People say, well, why don't you try Trillian? I tried Trillian. I was a big Trillian evangelist until I discovered Miranda, and Miranda is a lot more tweakable. It's open source. The skins are infinitely better. It's actively being developed. Plugins are smart. Seems to have an interesting, a better development community. I think the reason why is because it is open source, and Trillian isn't. Trillian's a good product. It's a good alternative to Miranda, but I couldn't upgrade from Trillian 2.0 to 3.0 because I felt Trillian 3.0 was a drain on resources. It was slower than 2.0, and 2.0 didn't support Jabber very well, the IM protocol that Google Talk uses, and I needed to use Google Talk, and I didn't want to have it running at the same time as Trillian, so I needed to find an IM client that ran fast, that worked well, that was being actively developed, and Miranda was it. I tried Game, G-A-I-M, but unfortunately I found Game's user interface to be... it's ugly. It's bad. Miranda was just tweakable 7 ways from Sunday. It took me a full day to get it up and going, and I've been happy with it since. It crashes, as every app does. If your app doesn't crash, I mean, come on. What kind of app are you if you don't crash? See here. Do you have any other comments about moving to Vista, the program itself, or Microsoft's attitude that Vista problems upgrade users are experiencing? Moving to Vista is a 50-50 proposition at this point, and that's the challenge. And I don't want to get off message if there is a message to stay on, because I realize it's in Microsoft's best interest that people move forward with Vista, and in some cases people have no choice but to move forward with Vista. I just wish they would leave them more of an out, because they know that there are certain incompatibilities in Vista that don't exist in XP because of the way software was written and designed. I think if they don't figure out how to deal with this soon, they're going to end up with a lot of issues and a lot of headaches and a lot of complaints and a lot of people not thinking about moving back to XP, but instead being told by all their friends, well, why don't you move to Ubuntu? Why don't you move to Linux? Or why don't you move to OS 10? I gotta tell you, dealing with my father and my parents and their issues that they have with Windows, him asking me, well, do I have to update my antivirus and my anti-spyware? And I'm thinking, well, why don't I just, all they care about is surfing the web and doing email and photos and some basic stuff. Why don't I just buy them OS 10 and be done with it? I'm telling you, I'm not the only one. Even people inside of Microsoft, and I'm not going to name any names, have switched to OS 10. Not going to name any names. They can do it themselves. In fact, they probably already have. Not going to name any names. Microsoft's attitude towards the Vista problems upgrade users are experiencing. I don't know. I don't know if they've really addressed them head on. I mean, they've got forums, they've got communities supported by volunteers. I think they're addressing it best they know how, but it's a big ship. And their marketing message is completely different. The wow starts now. And for me, it's not wow, it's whoa. For now. Still going to operate Vista in some capacity in my life. Not on my primary desktop. It just productivity has hurt me too much. Maybe I chose the wrong hardware. Maybe I chose the wrong software. But is that my fault? That's the beauty. Is there's so much choice in the marketplace that I can choose. I don't know. I'll look forward to Service Pack 1 and watching as software continues to be released. I'm looking forward to NVIDIA getting on the ball and updating their drivers. And until then, on the desktop, I'm just, I don't know. There we go. I've ranted and raved and explained my position and repeated it in some cases because I'm sure half of you will have tuned out and this will boil down to he said, she said, OS war all over again. It's really not an OS war. I'm pulling for Microsoft. I want them to make Windows better for me and for you and for the world. Windows should kick ass. Period. No questions asked. And now, instead of sitting here and saying Vista really kicks ass, I have to sit there and say I can run Windows Vista seamlessly inside of OS 10. And I look at Leopard and the features they're going to release, I'm like, wow, that's wow. Time Machine, have you seen this? Wow. I gotta wait till 2009 before another version of Windows is released. Question is can I wait? Am I going to get anxious? Is something going to push me over the edge? Let me tell you, it ain't going to be, well, I don't know, that iPhone is looking pretty nice, and I've got a singular account, but of course I live my life inside, let's see, where's my phone? I've got a smartphone, and the reason why I have a smartphone is because it syncs with Outlook. That's one of the reasons why I stick with Windows for the most part is because of speed, and I think Outlook 2007 is okay. It's not awesome, but I was using Outlook 2000 up until the point they released Outlook 2007 and had fixed a few of the speed discrepancies. But that's a PIM. It's a personal information manager, and I can't live without it. But now that Parallels runs Windows apps natively within OS 10, maybe Microsoft should be happy with that. That I still want to use those products. But I'm telling you, the world's changed. This isn't the days of Windows XP. And OS 10 is a fantastic user alternative, fantastic developer alternative. More of the world is moving to the web for applications. In fact, just the other day, Adobe announced that they were going to release a version of Photoshop online. The writing is on the wall. The question is who's reading it, and what are they going to do about it? I don't know. I guess I have a few more thoughts for Microsoft. I want to help them, and at the same time, I want to turn around to Apple and give them some suggestions on how they can really position themselves to be more of a competitor. Because right now they're really not. I mean, if you look at numbers, they're not a competitor. They're not even close. And for however you read the tea leaves, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of choices that can be made. 50-50. I'm right on the fence, and that's a very, very dangerous place to be. Very, very dangerous. My friend Scott Finney, who'd been a Windows fanatic for years and years and years, made the switch and made it very publicly, and that got a lot of attention. And now here I am going, what do I do? What do I do? What do you do? What are you going to do? What have you done? I mean, the world is different. It's different than it was when operating systems started. Now the world is really based on communications. And if I have a problem, if you have a problem, you can post it to the web, and the chances of it getting picked up are greater now because of services like fantastic search engines like Google, or, well, to give fair credit, Yahoo, Microsoft. I mean, is one technology better than another? Maybe. It's the question of how we use it and the brands that we use. I've watched my mom, you may have done this before too, or seen someone do this, open up a start page in Yahoo, their My Yahoo account, and go to the search box and type in www.google.com. To go to google.com, or to go get the result for Google, click on the Google link, and then search for what it was they were looking for. And I think that's what 99% of the user base is out there. They don't necessarily know where to turn to for help, or when their program isn't working, the first thing they're going to blame, well, they're either A, going to blame the program, or B, they're going to blame Microsoft. And are either one to blame? Maybe. It's the question of how they deal with those things, and how the software has to get smarter, and how the community really has to start making some decisions on how they're going to address these things with their vendor of choice. I don't know. I've got a few ideas for Microsoft. I have a few ideas for Apple, and Linux. I really like the effects that I've seen in, what is it, XGL. I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but it's looking pretty slick. Great eye candy, and it's actually somewhat usable as well. But I really think I gotta shut up now because I'm sure I've rambled on long enough. If you haven't tuned out already. What are you doing? Are you going to Vista? Are you fine with Vista? Are you sticking with XP? Do you have more questions? Have you run the upgrade advisor? Are you ready? Do you really think that Vista is worth the price? I don't know. Everybody's going to come to different conclusions. Vista's now shipping on most machines. Most, not all. Some high-end machines don't even or can't run Vista because the drivers aren't ready. I'm not alone here. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, that's not all I'm going to say, but that's one of the things that I have said. I either need more or less of this stuff, but I can't live without my Pete's coffee. So anyway, leave a comment, a remark, video, whatever, and until next time, we'll see you later.